obviously we're talking about RegTech. How does Liquidus fit into RegTech? And how are we different than a lot of the other solution providers out there right now? Because there's a lot of RegTech providers. Matt, I'm going to ask you that question.
Yeah, I was going to say, why don't I start this one off? I think going back from the years that we've actually been whiteboarding out Liquidus and trying to come with solutions around using blockchain technology, everything always stemmed back to the digital identity in itself. The digital identity has to start off in an organic manner, and it has to be compliant. And every transaction or every payment or any way in which your digital identity interacts with anything, compliance should be built into that and automated to make sure that there can be no offside. So we took this into consideration when designing out the Liquidus infrastructure, which is a way of connecting two blockchain ecosystems, which one is a digital identity network and the other is a digital marketplace. And being able to take a cryptographic proof of compliance on that digital identity and unlock tailored needs or tailored services and products towards that individual, we found was the most compliant way of really building out a digital corporate services marketplace here in the Bahamas. So we took regulation technology to the next level. We used a blockchain infrastructure in our marketplace, which allows for human readable elements to be written within the smart contract, which I'm sure Paul can talk on. And the main reason for this was legislation has to be built into the technology, and it has to be arbitrated against, if needs be, by the human element from the stakeholders that we're working with. So we took compliance into full consideration when building out the tech.
Great. And Paul, why don't you add some maybe technical definitions to some of the things that Matt mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, that was really well explained. But for me, it's just quite simply building the digital boundaries between regulation, technology, and privacy. We have tended to take the approach, as Matt, a little bit of an addendum to what Matt has mentioned, taking it to a local jurisdiction and believing in these proof of concepts to digitize regulatory compliance by, using technology like portable and compliant digital identity, distributed data across service delivery providers, corporate service delivery providers, ensuring that privacy is protected by distributed private cloud services. We know that that's the blockchain is what I'm referring to right now, where these assets become tamper-proof and through very powerful consensus algorithms. It's going to change the way that assets move around in the future. We looked at it from a holistic standpoint, with not just focusing maybe just on digital identity or simply digitizing governance. We're trying to create the identity, create that foundation, and then being able to distribute it across multiple corporate service providers. So in the end, we believe that we're going to be able to facilitate a virtual asset through our whole system that will eventually get onto exchanges, where today we see them on exchanges now fighting against some of these new rules that are coming out. The vision when we started this, and it was really Matt's vision, was building that foundation. And one really important part I'd like to add to this is the complexity of digitizing governance. So if you're operating a federated solution that connects all service delivery providers, then the creation of a digital unified governance model really help to optimize the flow of that digital asset as it bakes in rules and policy around regulatory and legislative frameworks. So that's what our aim is. And we believe that if we can build this out in one jurisdiction and then connect it to another, then we have a really nice foundation to present to the world as we move forward.
And just to touch on that slightly, and you briefly mentioned it there, Paul, but I suppose the way in which we're slightly different as a company is we're not looking at building a digital identity system which has global standards already built in, which is a one-size-fits-all approach. We understand that regulations are completely different in each jurisdiction around the world, and we want the local stakeholders to take control of that legislation and own it and attest it. and work with the individuals and businesses that they want to work with. So by building nodes into their infrastructure, we're creating a jurisdictional focused, agnostic digital identity ecosystem that, as Paul mentions, when you're looking to then, let's say, open up a new business into a new jurisdiction, you may only need to find one piece of information to add to your digital identity to unlock a full ecosystem of services again. But legislation will be different there, and it will be taken into consideration.
Yeah, that's a really great point, Matt. And I know you touched upon the Ricardian contract and the sort of the technologies and strategies that we use, which, as Matt explained, the Ricardian contract is a human readable contract that's attached to our smart contract. Best way to look at that is it's connecting, the world of law to the world of cryptography to the world of accountancy and bringing that all into one. In the event that you did need to arbitrate against a transaction in a business-to-business setting or a business-to-government setting. And so these are some of the strategies that we're employing as we're moving forward.
Well, that's a fantastic wrap up to where we're at with RegTech as well as the regulatory framework right now.